Episode of the SDSU podcast is sponsored by Marz Energy Cream, the first ever topical energy delivery product. Think energy drink, but it's a lotion. It contains a proprietary blend of natural ingredients, including caffeine, taurine, and B vitamins, to provide an energizing boost. And unlike traditional energy drinks and gels, Marz Energy Cream is sugar-free, contains no artificial flavors, colors, or preservatives. If you want to try it out, go to marzenergydrinkcream.com and use the code Andre, spelled ANDRE, at checkout to receive 15% off a purchase of a 50 milliliter tube. You are listening to the SDSU podcast presented by the East Village Times with your hosts Andre Hagverdian and Paul Garrison. Welcome, listeners, to another episode of the SDSU podcast. I'm your host, Andre Hagverdian. We'll be joined shortly by my co-host, Paul Garrison. This is a basketball episode as we are gearing up for the beginning of the basketball season. Both the men's and the women's start their seasons on Monday, November 6th. Paul and I got a chance to talk with the women's head coach, Stacie Terry-Hutson, a few days ago and talked to her about her team and what she's looking forward to this season and what role some of her top, returning players and incoming players can play this season. It was a great conversation, getting to know a lot of the players. Obviously the women's team doesn't get the same, notoriety and TV exposure that the men's do, but they work really hard, and they're obviously looking to have a successful season after coming off a postseason appearance last year in the women's NIT. That was really promising, something to build off of, and that's what Coach Terry-Hutson is looking to do. After the interview with her, Paul and I gave our takeaways from that interview, so check that out. And then at the end of this episode, we are finally putting out the full interview that Paul, Chris Spearing, and I did with Coach Velasquez, the assistant coach for the men's team. If you have followed along and read our season preview articles on eastvillagetimes.com, we use some of the quotes from the interview with Coach Velasquez in those previews, as we asked him the same questions that we answered in our roundtable preview articles. We asked Coach Velasquez, and so we included his answers to those in those articles. Obviously, we talked to him about a lot more than what was indicated in the articles, so definitely check that out towards the end of this episode. First up, though, here's the interview with Coach Stacie Terry-Hutson. We want to welcome SDSU's women's basketball coach, Stacie Terry-Hutson, to the podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, guys. I'm excited to chat.
Us too. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, we've been doing kind of a series of interviews with the head coaches. We've done Ryan Hopkins, Sean Cole a few times. So we're excited to get to talk to you as well.
There's a lot of good ones here at San Diego State. So I'm happy to be part of this family. This athletic family is special. It really is.
Yeah, we actually, one of our most recent episodes was with JD Wicker, our 100th episode. And he spoke about the importance of culture in each of his programs. How would you describe the culture you've built in the women's basketball program?
It started with JD. I mean, just with all of us as head coaches, and it trickles down into our individual sports. But culture is such a big piece of championship mentality. You got to have a great culture. And we're really proud of what we've been able to do with women's basketball. And I tell my girls all the time, it starts in the locker room. The culture starts in the locker room. So how are you cultivating it? How are you disciplining it? How are you keeping it going? And our men will tell you, our men's program, our men's basketball, it's tradition. Tradition never graduates. So if you set a great culture, it just kind of trickles down into each class and it just continues to grow.
How has the Jam Center kind of helped, develop that culture, and not with just the culture of the program, but developing the players?
Well, it's just given us a classroom. It's where we develop In the summer, it allows us to have access to a gym all the time. If you would go back and talk to some of the alums, they would say how they used to try to like break into Peterson to have access to a gym. But now that we have access, it just allows us to continue to grow skill work, shot repetition. And again, we just can teach and get better every day. We're not fighting for space. And that's added to the culture because we've created that culture of it's kind of cool to get in the gym and get that extra work in. I mean, there's times where we have all 8 baskets going because you got the men in on one side and our women on the other side. And they're just committed to excellence and trying to get better every day. So having that facility just allows us the opportunity to grow.
NIL is one of the big topics around college athletics. Asia Avenger transferred to Georgia. NIL was rumored to be part of that decision. What is your view of NIL and how it's impacting the landscape of your sport?
I was just talking to JD at one of our events last night. NIL and the transfer portal open at the same time is challenging, because you can use it as a way to entice other athletes to leave or to come, depending on your financial situation. And the transfer portal has been really good to us. And a lot of us here at San Diego State, but obviously you just mentioned how it can also, taketh away. So we're trying to maintain a healthy balance with that. I love what we're doing. We've been able to get a little bit into our collective and we're always fighting for more, but we have that same component of community service as our men's program has. And I'm really proud of that. I think it's a great way for us to help our student athletes out and keep them engaged as well with the community. So we've been able to do some more this year and our girls are forever grateful. It's different on our side. A little bit goes a long way. We're not looking for financial life-changing money. We're just looking for opportunities for them financially just to get a little bit more comfortable. So again, I love the fact that we are doing it with a community service component added to it. And I just think it means so much more.
No doubt. The Aztecs were picked to finish 5th in the Mountain West preseason poll. What are your thoughts on those predictions?
I'm okay with that. On paper, we lost a lot. If you're familiar with the wonderful season that we had last year, we won 23 games and graduated a significant piece of our scoring. So I understand, that 5th place preseason ranking. However, we got a lot coming back. So, it's going to be interesting with this team. We've had some injuries already. That have kind of sidelined some young ladies that I was hoping to count on. But we've had some young ladies that have had the opportunity to step up in roles probably that they weren't ready to take on, playing out of position. So I think it's a good spot for us. I think it's going to take us a while to get to where we're going. But once we get there, I think we're going to be really prepared for conference and be able to compete at a high level.
One of those transfers that you got last year was Adriana Quesada from Utah State. This is her second transfer, so she had to sit out a year. She was an honorable mention All Mountain West 2 years ago. What did she work on during her year off, and what are your expectations for her?
Mentality. We're still working on her mentality. She has to be that go-getter scorer for us. I was getting on her in practice today about that. She's just an unbelievable player. I mean, she's almost like a throwback. She, has a little bit of a hitch in her shot. She uses a shot fake or two to get by people. And she's just always in the gym, always wanting to get better. And I'm going to continue to challenge her to do more because we're going to need that from her. But she can score at all 3 levels. She can post up, she can, attack off the bounce from the high post, and she can also shoot the 3. You asked me what she's been working on. I think it's her jump shot. She's much more consistent from all three levels, and we're going to use her to score all over the floor. So she's anxious to play. It's been a while. It was fun to watch her in those exhibitions or the close scrimmages because it's been a minute since she's played against somebody else. But once she gets her rhythm and her feet underneath her, she's going to be fun to watch.
She's had the honor of playing for the Puerto Rican national team. She played against her teammate Kil Villalobos, who's on the El Salvador national team. Natalia Grizel have played for the under-20 Croatian team. How often has that happened for you as a coach to have so many players playing on different national teams?
This is the first time that 3 people have done that. And again, I'm so very proud of them. What a great honor and opportunity for them to represent their country. So when the opportunity came up, I was like, heck yeah, you got to go. And it was really cool to see some of the pictures of AD and Kim playing against each other. And that's a testament to how hard they work and how talented they are. They're going to have opportunities probably to make money after this. And they're just kind of, setting the stage for what comes after college athletics.
Freshman Trinity Zamora started all 4 seasons, Piedmont High. She was a 3-time All-State honoree. She was the preseason co-freshman of the year. What can you tell us about Trinity and what you're hoping she adds to the program?
Trinity has been such a joy. She's been so coachable. She has a really high basketball IQ. When you started describing her, you talked about all the winning that she did in high school and on the AAU circuit. She's just a winner. She knows how to get it done. She knows what it looks like. So she's going to bring a lot of experience, even as a freshman, being able to compete at that high level. She's a young lady, one of those young women that I'm asking to play out of position. She's a little bit banged up right now, so we got to get her healthy. But she's just surprised me with her strength and her willingness to do whatever is asked of her. And she's going to be a force to be reckoned with, not just this year, but for many years to come.
Can you dig a little bit into her recruitment? Seems like a really special player. She passed the 2,000 mark in her next to last high school game. Over her career, she averaged 22 points, 13 rebounds. Her high school team was the number 1 seed in the Open Division, although there was an upset. But they still finished 27-1, number 7 in the state. She came down to San Diego for a tournament, which they won. She goes 28 points in the finals. Could you take us through her recruitment and just how big of a recruiting win was that for the program?
It was a huge, huge recruiting win. And I'm so grateful for my staff. One of my assistants really has a great relationship with their head coach and really has spent a lot of time. Kelly Lewis has just done such a great job with her, just creating that relationship. And then when I had a chance to get involved, I just knew that she needed to be an Aztec. And she's, like I said, she's just a great kid, comes from a great family, a basketball family. And again, I just think her best basketball's ahead of her, which is crazy because you just mentioned all the good thing and wonderful things that she's done so far. But I think it was fitting for her to get that preseason honor as far as the Mountain West Conference. And again, we're going to continue to push her and, be more consistent in all of her actions. But again, what I've asked her to do thus far, and again, she's playing a little bit out of position. She's really, really blossomed into a wonderful player.
Trinity's not the only freshman that was added. You've got Mia Davis, Alyssa Jackson, who were named 3 of the best 4 recruits in the Mountain West by 3&D magazine. Ellie Chen was a 4-year All-CIF selection in high school. Looks like a special class. What have they all shown so far?
Resilience, like I said. And again, starting with Ellie would just we threw her in, like literally threw her in to the mix. And we're like, oh, hopefully she will swim. And she has done that, so she's still learning. I mean, it's like drinking out of a water hose right now because she wasn't with us in the summer. And she's going to come in and she's going to compete and play. I don't know if guys know this, but we found her in walk-on tryouts because her numbers were low. And once we did our research and watched her play, I was like, she can really go. And so we snatched her up, put her on the roster, and she's going to get significant minutes because some of our numbers are low in that position. So we're really excited about her. Mia is still recovering from some injuries that she had in high school. So we're taking it slow with her. We want to make sure she's as strong as she possibly can be before we throw her on the court. But I will tell you, working out with her and I get a lot of individuals in right now, and she is really, really gifted, really gifted. So we can get her healthy and get her on the floor. We're going to be in a better place for it. And then the other one, Alyssa Jackson, I'm asking her to do a little bit of everything: score the ball, defend, pick up 94 feet, rebound. I'm asking her to do it all as a freshman. And she's really stepped up to the challenge. She's another one that's come from a great program, knows how to win, and can score at high level. She's had some games where she scored crazy numbers, put crazy numbers up. So once she gets used to how fast the college game is, I think you're going to see a really exciting player that can do a little bit of everything.
Looking at the teams that were picked ahead of the Aztecs in the conference, each of them have at least 4 players on their roster taller than 6 foot. San Diego State does not have anyone over 6 foot. Do you think you have enough size inside to compete with some of these taller teams?
I do. And we're just going to do it, in a different way, how we've decided to play offensively, a little more spaced. That same disadvantage that you're referring to, we should have on the other end of the floor offensively, being able to, outquick some of those bigger players. So, you can't underestimate the heart of a lion. And AD Quezada is really just so tough. She's been defending the low post for us. Kim Villalobos is just strong. They may not be as tall, but they are definitely as strong. So, we're asking a lot of them, but, we're going to do it by committee. Kylie Pepe is another one that's coming in, and she may not be, 6'2", but she's strong as an ox, and she battles down there. It's one of our best post defenders, and excited to see what that group can do.
Hope you could educate us a little bit. There are obviously differences between the men's game and the women's game. But you look at the preseason Mountain West team, Boise State, Abby Muse, she's 6'3", Desiree Young from UNLV, 6'1", Wyoming's Allison Fertig, 6'4". And then you're returning Kim Villalobos, who is your leading rebounder from a year ago. How much does that, 1, 2, 3, 4 inches matter in this game?
It definitely matters. But like I said, kind of before, like we're using that to an advantage on the other end. It definitely helps. The athleticism in our league has definitely, gotten better. I think this might be the first time since I've been here that we've had 3 dominant post players like we do this year. I mean, Muse is just just a great shot blocker. If she's not blocking it, she's making you adjust. So she does a great job at the rim. And Desi can do a little bit of everything at UNLV. She can score it. She defends. And then Fertig is just an old school back to the basket post player that you don't see all the time. It's actually fun to watch, not when we're playing her, but it's fun to watch to have a traditional back to the basket post player. So they're all different, right? I mean, Desi will outquick you, and she's a phenomenal athlete. Muse is just that old school shot blocker, really agile, can take you off the bounce, score it with her back to the basket, but defensively, she's just really tough. And then Fertig, like I said, she's traditional back to the basket. The game is kind of changing on both sides, I think the men and the women, and we're going more to a Golden State Warriors type of set where the forwards are a little bit more guard-like. They can handle the ball, they can shoot the ball. That's kind of what we're trying to mimic on some levels, just that 4-round-1 type look versus just one traditional post in the middle. And with AD and Kylie Pepe and Kim, we can take those kids off the block and out of the high post and put them on the perimeter because they can handle a little bit. They can shoot it a little bit. So you're going to see some interesting basketball, some interesting sets with us this year as we try to figure out who we are and what our identity is. But you're going to see those kids on the perimeter, see if we can take advantage of those bigger players.
Great. Could you give us a little bit more details on Kylie Pepe?
Yeah.
Obviously, we've talked a lot about Villalobos, Quezada. She's the other forward listed on the roster, lettered a year ago. And just what are you expecting for that next evolution in her game?
I'm looking for her to come off either whether she starts or comes off the bench. She should be the 6th man, or she should, someone that can play significant minutes. I mean, she's doing so well right now. She's scoring at all levels. She has a beautiful shot. She's a guard, really, that can handle a little bit, can shoot the 3. So she's going to have to continue to grow and really do a lot more for us this year, I think, offensively. And I'm going to give her those opportunities. We put in some plays for her where she can shoot the 3 and she can attack out of the high post. But she's been really playing well as of late. And I think she's really motivated to have a breakout season.
You alluded to this a little bit earlier about what kind of style of play we should expect from your team. Maybe the 4 out, 1 in. As Paul mentioned, you only have 3 forwards listed on the roster. Can you expound a little bit on what that could look like schematically?
Sure. A little bit of the Princeton offense. I don't know how familiar you are just with our high post being our forward and 4 guards around her. Megan Fiso is another one we haven't talked about that hasn't been healthy for a whole season, but is looking and playing really good basketball right now. So she's an undersized forward. I always tell her she's a post trapped in a guard body. And she has some wonderful back to the basket moves. So you'll see us post up some of our guards because I think we have an advantage there. But the 4-around-1, putting in some motion concepts that we're still trying to grasp. It's going to be one of those situations where I think you're going to see us continue to grow as the season goes on because we're changing what we do. We don't have that lead point guard in Asia anymore. And we don't have the shooters and the floor general that we had in Mercedes Staples and Sophia Ramos. So we're trying to figure out who we're going to be and what it's going to look like. And we're throwing some things at them and they're really picking it up nicely. But I think it's going to take some time for us to go where we want to go. So to answer your question, just a lot of movement on the perimeter, some ball screens, some high post attacks, just a bunch of different options to get our shooters available.
So, Coach, I know we spoke about, obviously Asia Avenger transferring out, but you also brought in two guards in the portal, junior Aaron Hoop from Mercer, Jada Lewis from Portland State. Both of them averaged around 12, 13 points a game last year for their teams. Where do you see their impact this season?
Well, I have a bit of bad news, unfortunately. So Erin tore her ACL probably about 5 weeks ago. So she's recovering right now. So she's going to be done for the season. And that was a big blow for us because she was a knockdown shooter. So we're excited that we get her for another year, but disappointed that she won't be with us moving forward. But she's been great in doing a rehab, and she's going to be, my an additional coach for us for sure. Jada is doing great. She can shoot it lights out. She made 81 threes last year. She's a knockdown shooter. So we're excited to get her on the floor, doing a great job for us. Again, playing multiple positions because our numbers are a little bit low because of injuries, but she's doing great. And she's going to have to score the ball for us, be ready to shoot it when it comes to her. But she's also a gifted passer and can play at all three levels.
You mentioned Megan Fiso a little bit earlier, but she was on a Sweet 16 team at Michigan, played on the Sweet 16 team, top 40 recruit out of high school, Seattle Times Player of the Year. She was part of the rotation, but then had her own injury problems last year. Can you give us an update on her recovery and a little bit more on where you see her impacting the team this year?
She's going to have to step in this year and play significant minutes and play multiple roles for us. She's doing a great job. She's healthy, the first time in a long time. And she can, like I said, she can post those smaller guards up. She shoots the three at a high level. She's really great off the bounce, and defensively, I challenged her, and she's really proud of what she's been able to do defensively. She's really made a lot of strides there. But she's a really gifted scorer. So I think she's going to surprise some people this year. Like I said, she hasn't been healthy, and she's 100% right now and has been for a while. So we're excited to get her on the floor and get her some games underneath her belt. It's been a minute since she's played. So it might take her a little bit to get her rhythm, but in practice, she looks great. And our first close scrimmage, she had a really good scrimmage. So I'm excited for her as we start the season.
An athlete like her who's had so much early success and then kind of struggles on keeping that same trajectory because of injuries, whatever it was. What has been your advice to her about being able to, I guess, have that endurance or, have to wrestle with really expectations, right? Because there are so many expectations for being such a high profile recruit and how she's been able to handle that, in the transition to San Diego State.
Well, she's done a great job doing that, just handling it, and obviously it's challenging at times, but she's really in a great mind space as far as what she wants for herself and what she wants for this program. And she's really bought into that, and a lot of the things that have gotten Megan's way, she had no control over. I mean, she just hasn't been healthy.
Right.
There was some bouts with stuff, COVID at Michigan. And then she was, she hurt her ankle twice since she's been here. So she's just had a bad go at it. So my advice to her has been just to enjoy the journey. And I've really, really enjoyed the mindset that she's come in with this year. she's just trying to get better every day. She's working on her game, uplifting her teammates and trying to stay motivated herself. And it's really paid off. She's playing really well. And I'm hoping she continues to be able to stay in that space.
Now, one name Aztec fans are sure going to know is Greg Gottlieb. He obviously was an assistant under Steve Fisher for 8 years back at from 99 to 2007. Why did you bring him back to the Mesa?
Greg knows San Diego State, and he's tied into the community and tied in to Aztec basketball. I think it was a great hire. He knows the game. He's passionate about the game. It was interesting because he hadn't coached women prior to his couple years at GCU. So I always had my eye on him. He's friends with my husband. And then once I knew he had experience with women on the women's side, I knew it would be a good hire for us when, we had the opening, and, I recruited him over to help me with some offensive concepts, and he's been great so far. He's knowledgeable. He has great relationships with the rest of the staff and a great demeanor with the young women. And that's important, and again, he cares about things outside of basketball, the stuff that's, who they are as people and life after basketball. He has great relationships with some of the former men that he's coached and recruited. And I just really appreciated his passion for the game.
Last two questions for you, Coach. First, San Diego State women's team is coming off its best season in about a decade. You had a postseason appearance in the women's NIT. What does success look like this year for your team?
For this year, we just got to continue to get better every time we touch the floor. One person that we didn't talk about today is Abby Prohaska, who has been a big, big part of what we're trying to do. And she has been someone who stepped up and leads our program by example. And she's done a great job with that. The other one we didn't talk about is Sarah. Sarah, who played limited minutes last year, has really stepped up in a leadership role and is going to have to play significant minutes for us this year. So the leadership that we have with some of the older, I call them the grandmas on our team, the older kids that are in their 6th year, it's really helped us figure out who we are and continue to grow through some of the growing pains that we're going through. We have a fairly inexperienced team. I'm talking about us as a unit. They've played at different places and come in, but us still trying to figure who we are together as a unit. It has been fun, it has been challenging, and we'll continue to get better as we start playing games. We're going to have to use those first couple games to kind of get our rhythm. Obviously we want to win. That's the goal, but we're just trying to get better every time and prepare ourselves for conference play.
Single game tickets for the season went on sale earlier this week. Obviously you want fans to come to every game, but are there, some contests or games on that schedule that fans should have circled as must-see games?
Well, Stanford's coming this year. It's going to be an afternoon game, so there'll be a lot of kids in there. But anytime you get an opportunity to come watch Stanford play basketball, I would highly suggest it. Obviously, who they are. Their coach is the best to ever do it, a powerhouse in the women's game. So that would be one I would circle. I think Cal Baptist is going to be a fun one. It's going to be up and down, fast pace. And then I think all of them are going to be good ones, but those two I would say would be two that I would come out and watch for sure.
And there are some nationally televised games, I think, against Fresno and San Jose State.
We're excited about that. We haven't had those games. Obviously, the Mountain West does a great job streaming all of our games, so you can watch them there. But to have two nationally televised games is really, really a step in the right direction for us. So I got to get them ready to make sure we put out a good performance there. But two good teams. It'll be fun to watch. I'm excited that we can get some exposure nationally.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Coach. We appreciate you taking the time, answering some questions and getting our listeners ready for the upcoming season.
My pleasure. Anytime. I'd love to come back. Anytime you'll have me, I'm ready.
All right, great. Good luck this season.
Take care. Thanks. Bye-bye, guys.
All right. That was Stacie Terry-Hutson, women's basketball coach for San Diego State. It's the first time we've had a chance to talk to her. What are your quick takeaways from this interview?
Well, I think there was a few things that I really wanted to know in doing our research for this. I was a little bit surprised at the fact that they were picked fifth in the Mountain West, considering all of the people that left from a year ago. Their top four players, three of which graduated, and so I was, I guess I don't know. I think it's a sign of respect that they believe that San Diego State can. I mean, Sophia Ramos was for a very long time one of the best players who ever come through the Mesa. And, Yummy Morris, another one, Mercedes was another one, and obviously AJ Avenger. And they just were such huge, high impact. I mean, not just in terms of like scoring, but in terms of minutes played, in terms of all those things. That to still be fifth, I think it shows the potential for the team, right? Because if they're right about the talent that coach has assembled, then, maybe they're going to be able to compete. They weren't that far in the Mountain West Championship from beating UNLV, obviously at home, nationally ranked UNLV at the time, and preseason favorite. And so it'll just be interesting to see how all of those things play out. And then the other part that I really was interested in was just her answers about how she's built her team and maybe just the lack of size inside. I thought it was funny when she was describing Pepe, and she said, well, she's really a guard. And I was laughing only because on the roster, sometimes she's listed as a guard and sometimes she's listed as a forward. And so I just went with it because I think there's only two. And then especially in contrast to the size that are at these other schools, if you're undersized, like especially with the transfer portal, like that's partially intentional. And, so I like that about, we're going to run, we're going to try to get out there. But I just wanted to hear her answer. And then, of course, it's a little bit of ignorance. In the men's game, if you're 7 foot and you're guarded by somebody who's 6'8" or 6'9", that's a big difference. And I didn't know if it was the same thing for somebody who's 6'4" and 6 foot, 6'3" and 6 foot, and it sure seems like it is. And maybe even more so. And so I was just, I wanted to get that education in, but I thought overall it was really good. So anyway, that's where I'll start.
Yeah, I mean, I think, first of all, I want to thank you for your research and your putting these questions together. Don't follow the women's team as much as obviously we follow some of the other teams we talk about and we cover. So I think it was fun and interesting listening to her talk about these players that we necessarily don't know much about because it's new information for us, right, from that perspective. And it excites us to hear about some of the things she's expecting from some of those players, the different roles they could have, how that style of play might look, the 4 out, 1 in with a high post forward. So all of that stuff I think is exciting. The team is coming off a great season. Now they have a lot of pieces, obviously, as you mentioned, that they have to replace. And so it's not going to be a fluid, start from day one and take off from where they ended up last year, but it'll be a process, but it looks like the potential is there for potentially another, in postseason appearance.
Yeah. I mean, I think the potential is there. I do think that, as far as, your knowledge of them, I did watch them last year. Aside from Kim Villalobos, they are like really turning the roster over in a lot of ways. And it'll just be interesting to see how that works out. And Pepe was there a year ago. I remember her. But I just think that, it in many ways oddly mirrors what's happening on the men's side, where you lose so many stalwarts and it's like, well, what is this team going to look like? What is it going to be? And then obviously coach's job is to guide them through that process. I was fascinated by her description of Megan Fizzo and just, the story reminds me a lot of, Malik Pope from years ago, who was just just the injuries, and you have like these all world expectations and then just, doesn't quite line up, and you're just really rooting for her to be able to be healthy and be able to actually see what she can do on this level. But, anytime that you're going to go and you're going to bring into the mix somebody who played, not a ton, but played for Michigan when they went to the Sweet 16, has the pedigree of, it's something that It's something that I don't think you can truly coach, but it's just the confidence to know that you're like elite and one of the best in the world, and you kind of can carry that and give that to your teammates. And so I'm excited that she's healthy and will have the opportunity to compete. And then you just talk about like some of the younger, some of the freshmen. I mean, talk about being able to really do a great job with recruiting to be able to get 3 of the 4 best incoming freshmen in the Mountain West. And Trinity Zamora just, I mean, she looks obviously, has the preseason accolades to back it up, but just seems like one of those like exciting freshmen to come in and to see, what roles there, because again, it's wide open. It's wide open about, what's going to be there. And then I love that nugget about that Ellie, the other freshman, was a walk-on, and they did a tryout from the school, and she shows up. He's like, "You can play," and then she said, "Not only is she going to play, but she's going to play significant minutes as a freshman." And you're just like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, Ellie Chen, and that's a cool story, man. That's a cool story. Again, it's more storylines to be able to follow, and I think it should make being able to go to these games, watch them on TV that much more enjoyable, because now we have a great description from their coach about who they are.
Yeah, especially the Stanford coming in. I mean, she talked about having the best coach that's ever done it. Tara Vanderveer. She's been coaching there for 35 years. That's a long time, and obviously they've had a lot of success. That game is on a Friday, December 1st at 11 a.m., which is a little bit of a bummer because it's a work day. So
it's actually incredibly cool. We had our time limit with coach. I'm guessing, just a guess. Oh no, it's not a guess. She alluded to it. They have an insanely cool program with the San Diego Unified District, where that's a field trip day.
Oh,
and
wow.
all of the kids get to take a field trip to go watch an Aztecs basketball game. And the fact that, and then I mean, we had a photographer at the game last year, and the pictures that were taken from that, of just the interaction of all of these kids with the Lady Aztecs and all of that. But to have that game be that day, I think what a cool treat that they're going to be able to do that. And I obviously always come at these things with my education hat, a little bit too. And every time, you can get school kids to come onto the university and they get to see Stanford, they get to obviously be, on at San Diego State. I just think it's a great opportunity, and man, it could be a day to call and stick. We'll see.
Yeah, that's the same day San Diego State plays at my alma mater, UCSD, at 7 o'clock. Well, I guess they're both my alma maters because I got degrees from both, but UCSD came first, right? Undergrad, for me. And so that game's at 7 o'clock at, Remac Arena. I still call it Remac, even though it's got a vendor, a sponsor now. So you could do a doubleheader, right? You could take the day off.
That'd be something else. And the thing is, that'd be great. But see, it's also my birthday.
December 1st?
Yeah, bro. We got 3
Oh, wow.
I know, man. I know. Well, a lot of things going, man. That's exciting. I absolutely love that event that they do with getting all those kids there to go on a field trip, and I think it's the coolest thing. And so I wanted to ask her about it as just like a follow up on it, but we were with the time constraints. But I think it's just maybe as we get closer, get to do that again. But
yeah.
I thought that was super cool. Again, it goes back to that ignorance, right? We're like, hey, it seems kind of nuts that you have 3 national team players on your roster over the summer. But like, I could be ignorant of this. This could just be, you know what I mean? Like she talked about how Quesada and Villalobos are going to go make money at this after, and that's a world I don't know completely of how that works out and what they're talking about. And so I didn't want to sound stupid and be like, so that's crazy, right? There shouldn't be 3 on there. And then her being like, oh no, it happens every year. But I didn't think that was the case, but it's actually, nope, first time for me. But I just think that, we saw with Adam Seiko on the men's side when he went to play on the national team, And I thought that his game, he didn't play the same game that he played for Uganda, but I thought you could see a level of just like maturity and confidence that came with playing against grown men. And I'm really excited to see like what that translates in terms of that for the women's team. And when you play against older players, when you play at like the highest levels internationally, and I obviously want to play for an under 20 team, so they're not necessarily that much older for her, but I think it can just add so much going to faraway places, learning how to like stay connected to how to get better at basketball and all the things that you need to do with that. So yeah, like I said, I think there's a lot going for them, and I thought it was a great opportunity to kind of get a little bit of a season preview for them.
Yeah, they also open their season on Monday, November 6th, same as the men's team, but they're on the road at Portland. But their first home game will be the 10th, Friday, against California Baptist at 6 p.m. So if you're looking for some basketball basketball games to attend on the women's side, next Friday, the November 10th, will be your first opportunity. And as I said, Stanford, December 1st. If you've got the ability to get away from work for a couple hours on a Friday afternoon or early afternoon,
yeah,
look to do it. This episode of the SDSU podcast is sponsored by Marz Energy Cream, the first ever topical energy delivery product. Think energy drink, but it's a lotion. It contains a proprietary blend of natural ingredients, including caffeine, taurine, and B vitamins, to provide an energizing boost. And unlike traditional energy drinks and gels, Marz Energy Cream is sugar-free, contains no artificial flavors, colors, or preservatives. If you want to try it out, go to marzenergydrinkcream.com and use the code Andre, spelled ANDRE, at checkout to receive 15% off a purchase of a 50 milliliter tube. We want to welcome San Diego State basketball assistant coach Dave Velasquez to the podcast. How are you doing today, Coach?
I'm doing well. We had a good practice today. Obviously, have the most non-secret closed-door scrimmage coming up this Saturday, which we're excited to finally play someone else. We've got Arizona State on Saturday, and then looking forward to going to watch another Aztec football win versus Nevada that night. So it's a good time. It's a good time of year for us. It's an exciting time of year, and for us coaches, it's a very anxious time of year, if you will.
Yeah, the first real game that counts is November 6th, less than 3 weeks away. How do you think practice and the preparation for the season has been going so far?
It's been going really well. And, people don't understand this as much as others, but, we've been together since July 5th is when our guys had to report to campus. And that's all the new guys. And obviously there's been some injuries and some bumps along the way, but it's been great to be together. It's another great group of guys, just high character, hardworking young men, guys that are about the right things. And so we're excited about that, this group, and excited about who, what they represent, who they are, how coachable they've been. But again, everything is so fluid. I'll never forget how much better, and it's a staple of Coach Tutz's team, how much better we get throughout the season. But last year was no better indication of, where we were at this time of year to where we ended up, where we were at the beginning of the year to where we were at the end. It's just, it was almost night and day as a coach. But to be honest, this team kind of has that same type of, feel to it, where there's enough older guys to know what's accepted, what's not accepted. There's enough, what you kind of call examples of how to do things for these new guys, guys that we're going to really rely on, guys like Reese Waters, Jay Powell, to really see what San Diego State basketball is all about.
Every San Diego State fan is aware that you were trying to replace 5 guys who had been in the program for several years. 4 of those guys, at least 4 of them, were elite defenders. How could this year's defense look a little bit different than in years past?
Well, it's going to look a lot different. I'll tell you that. One of the guys and, our whole staff and team is responsible for it, but the defense is not going to look as long and athletic just to start. It's not going to look as experienced. And those two things right there, it's incredibly hard to replace. It's what every team in the country is trying to do, is become long and athletic and have older guys. We just happened to have it last year. So it's going to look different. It's going to be, like I just said, it's going to be a year that's going to be fluid. We're going to continue to get better. We're not going to be at the beginning where we were at the end of last season by any means. And again, the habits are hard. Habits are hard to break, good and bad habits. Things that we're trying to teach guys that have been with us for 2, 3, 4 months. Some of these other guys, Adam Seiko was having the habits for 6 years. Keith Todd Johnson was 4 years. Nathan Mensah, 5 years. Aguico Rowe, 5 years of habits. You're not going to expect their habits to be with our guys, these new guys especially. And, I was laughing the other day with Micah Parrish and Dan Trammell. I mean, they're the example for what to do and how to do it. And they've only been here for one season. Where last year they were able to sit on the baseline and look at these other older guys. I mean, they had 4 or 5 guys that have been in the same system, the same defensive principles, same high standard of defense, the same, intricate details that we teach. They're around these guys that had been doing it for 3, 4, 5 years, like I just mentioned. So, yeah, it's not going to look the same, especially at the beginning. I don't think it's fair to even try to hold into that bar, that standard that we have when it starts. But eventually they'll get there the same way that it didn't start for Micah Parrish and Darren Trammell last year at the beginning of last year, and they both found a way to be 2 of our better defenders at the end of the year.
So if it's not going to be exactly the same at the start of the year, it's still Aztec defense, right? And so what are those commonalities and ways that you guys are going to be keeping a lot of that same identity with this group?
Well, a lot of it's just the emphasis of who we are. And a lot of that, to me, has to do with what's accepted, what's not accepted. A lot of it has to do with a lot of the things that we teach, team defense, not playing one-on-one, not allowing teams to play one-on-one versus us. You're playing 1-on-5. 5 guys on a fifth. Takes all 5. One guy's not ready to play. One guy takes a possession off. It affects the other 4. It takes all 5 guys. So, our standard is not going to change in terms of how we coach them by any means, but I'm just not expecting them to be exactly where they were. But, you're still going to see, if you really watch San Diego State basketball, like I know you guys do, every single time there's a closeout, you're still going to see high hands. You're not going to see a lot of open layups without somebody coming to try to fix it at the end. You're not going to see a lot of wide open shots with people looking around like what happened. Just little things that we don't accept here. It's what you guys said. It's our identity. It's how people identify San Diego State. And if you look at the banners and everything we've done here, it works. And so we're not going to go away from the formula by any means.
One of the players that you are looking to replace, and I don't even know if it's possible, is Nathan Mensah. You mentioned him before, but just his ability at his size to play team basketball, to guard on the perimeter, to do things that typically centers don't do. Is that going to make it harder to switch 1 through 5 because you don't have a player of that caliber, that defender on the roster this year?
Yeah, but at the same time, we have guys that can still move their feet on the perimeter. What it will make it challenging not having Nathan is just his ability that, again, as a freshman, he wasn't able to do, to be honest. I mean, he had to learn through reps. But just his ability is, okay, once the ball screen happens and once you switch it, and we tell our guys this all the time, the magic in what we do in the switch 5 ball screens and all that kind of stuff, it's not in the actual ball screen and then guarding the guy one-on-one. That's, for the most part, that's pretty the elementary part of it. It's the magic in it all is, okay, now who are you guarding? Are you guarding a shooter? Like let's just use a team an example. Are you now on Jared Lucas where you can't give as much gap help? Or maybe you're on a guy like Trey Coleman who you can be in the help a little bit longer and know that he's going to be a driver first, but he can still shoot the ball, so you're going to have to close out different. I mean, those little things is what made Nathan so good at the end, where no matter who he was able to switch on to, he could then, switch the scouting report, know he's on this guy, know he can give this amount of gap help. I mean, those are the kind of things, again, without experience, without going through it over and over and, 20, 30 games in of switch 5, you can't expect a guy to do it right away. And again, like I said, this is something that's taught over time, and experience is the best teacher in the world, where you could see yourself on film, be in that position before, learn from your own mistakes, and then move forward and get better at it.
Coach, a lot of people are excited about the potential groups that you could be sending out on the court. Even with the lack of potential size, does SDSU have the ability on this team to rebound and defend with potentially 4 wings on the court?
Well, we better, because Coach Dutcher's not going to play if you can't, to be honest. I think it's one of those things like we talked about, our identity, our formula for winning. is defending and rebounding. And, you know, it's something that we truly believe in, and we are going to find a way to get it done. And it's, you know, we've had a lot of years where, you know, guys had to just, you know, kind of adapt into new roles. And as a coach, you never feel like you have all the answers, and every team's a little different. So yeah, we might have some different ball screen coverages this year. Yeah, we might have some different kind of rotational rebounding things we might do different that we're experimenting with right now. Because not every team's the same. Not all the personnel is always the same. So yeah, I do feel like we have a team that could still be really good defending and rebounding. And again, the rebounding thing, you know, some of the best rebounding teams in the country, they're actually not bigger guys. It's actually teams that, you know, they know how much they have to work on it. They know that's kind of a crutch of theirs if they don't have enough size. I mean, remember playing that Charleston team? That was like a top 10 offensive rebounding team in the country. Well, they're a top 10 offensive rebounding. They just went every time. It wasn't like they had this crazy amount of size, but they did. They literally had an emphasis to go on every single shot and still get back in transition. And, you know, like I said, it's so much of not about what you teach. It's all about what you emphasize. And with our group and our team and our program and the foundation of who we are as coaches, what our guys came here to play for, and Coach Dutzer. And I've sat there in all the recruiting meetings for a long, long time. And he always tells them, if you want to play at San Diego State, you're going to have to defend. And no matter how many baskets you can get, if you can defend, you will be out there, you will play. But it starts on the defensive end of the floor. And these guys all heard that when they came here. They all understand it now. It's why we have so much success with transfers, is that there's no guesswork in who we are and what we think is important. And obviously the defensive side of the ball is our most important.
Yeah, I think that would fire up a lot of potential defensive players wanting to come to SDSU. So why do you think that the staff values that skill, you know, the defending, more than the offensive production?
You know, I don't think we value it, to be honest. More, I just think we let them know. You know, I think we're valuing the fact that Reese Waters can go get a bucket, you know, that he's sixth man of the year in the Pac-12, that he can score at all three levels. He can post you up. He can hit the mid-range. He can make the three. You know, we're working on his, you know, assist to turnover ratio. That's something that has to get better. But when you talk to Reese, and we recruited Reese out of high school, we know Reese is a winner. We know Reese wants to win. We know Reese can be a better defender than he was at his last school. And so looking at how Reese defended at USC, and I talked about this a lot last year with Micah Parrish. You know, Micah Parrish he played in the top of 1-3-1 zone at Oakland. He didn't play a single possession of man defense in his entire college career before he came to San Diego State. So, you know, again, we value more of their character. We value more of their buy-in, their understanding and willing to be coached. But yeah, we actually, to be honest, we actually recruit more offensive players. And of course, you're going to look for a defensive guy here and there. But to be honest, you know, we're looking for guys that can, you know, add value on the opposite end of the floor. And then defensively, they're going to sink or swim, to be honest with you, when you get here.
Coach, who could be one guy? I know we talked a lot about, you know, if you play defense, you're going to play. You know, who could be one guy that could get more time this year solely because of how they play defense?
You know, a guy that I think is, you know, really showing that he could be somebody that didn't play a lot last year. That could, you know, he's getting so much better defensively is Miles Burt. You know, Miles is, it's funny, him right now, he's actually leading our team in just block shots at practice. And he's long, he's athletic, he comes off, you know, he's one of those guys, you know, kind of blocks shots a lot like a rope and Pete did last year, where, you know, you're 2-3 spots away, but you're so long and athletic, you just come over and just get it at the rim. You almost come out of nowhere. You know, it's not necessarily your help. And then his length to be able to guard on the perimeter, where it's really hard to shoot a step back or a pull up on him because he's long enough to block your shot. And then, you know, we're going to play DeMarce Johnson. You know, DeMarce is going to get a chance. He's been here. It's his third year here now. Like, it's time for him to get an opportunity to play and protect the rim. And there will be games. And if you look at our non-conference, which is insane, they're going to be playing some bigger guys and sometimes playing him and Jaden together just to get Jaden off the big fella, you know, and get him out there. And, you know, we are going to play a freshman, Miles Heide. I mean, we're still going to play big. You know, it's something that we still want to do. And again, this is all fluid, right? It's October. Still haven't played anybody yet. We'll get to another team here soon. But yeah, for us, our mindset is we're still going to play a lot of guys. We're still going to play a lot of bodies. And Jaden Ledee at the 4th spot going against Foreman and having to box him out. I mean, he had such great success there last year where he was able to just go and kind of dominate the offensive glass just from having smaller guys try to box him out.
Yeah, you mentioned several names, guys who didn't play last year or weren't on a team. Obviously, at some point, the coaching staff wants to finalize and develop, an 8 or 9-man rotation. What do the coaches look for when they're trying to select how the rotation is going to work?
Well, the first thing is that practice matters. I think we try to be as honest as we can. I always do the defensive chart so that the first time they see it won't be on Monday morning's film session. We do the defensive chart after every scrimmage. And so a lot of it's just trying to shore up the rotation with, what you've done up until this point is kind of depend on, who gets the first crack at it, who gets the most opportunity to start. But again, it's completely fluid. You just don't know. I mean, it depends on a lot of things. Some guys they don't really get to see it until we start playing real games. And it clicks, the light goes off. I'll never forget Lamont Butler as a freshman. Once we started playing in games, he started to really understand and see how things were flowing. And he goes from playing I want to guess he played 5 or 6 minutes against UCLA. And this is the COVID year where you guys, unfortunately, weren't able to be in the gym. But we beat UCLA. He plays 5 or 6 minutes. But you look up 7, 8 games later, he's playing 19 minutes a game. And all it took was for Mott to just see it over and over again, see it against live action, get to put himself out there, and then became a huge part of the rotation as a freshman. So a lot of it starts at practice, but then again, a lot of it then comes with opportunity and just kind of learning on the fly and learn as you go.
Coach, earlier you spoke about one of the more remarkable parts of, a Brian Dutcher-led team is the ability to get better as the year goes on. You're also mentioning about how it's very fluid right now with what this team is going to be. Is that part of the recipe of improvement? Is the coaching staff not making hard, fast decisions and allowing the process to be able to play out?
I would hope so. It's one of those things educated guess. My answer is yes, but there's no true, black and white answer to that of, okay, yes, that's an absolute fact. I think it is. I think our guys feel it though more than anything else. Our guys feel like if they're given an opportunity and they show well, we're going to continue to reward them. They're going to continue to get more opportunity. I think that's incredibly important. And again, there's just so many guys. I mean, Elijah Saunders. I mean, he was given a few opportunities last year to get in games. So kind of he now understands what we're looking for out of him, what we're expecting out of him. And we're expecting him to not look like a freshman anymore. At times, he looked like a freshman last year, which is totally fine. That's totally okay. But he's grown his game so much. He's allowed his kind of mind to relax. And again, as the freshman, and if you were to talk to DJ Davis and Miles Heide, our 2 true freshmen right now, they would tell you the game's going really fast right now. And if you were to talk to Miles Bird and Elijah Saunders, they would tell you it's really slowed down, but they remember when it went so fast. So I think it's just, to me, it's kind of more of a trust thing that the guys know that, we will give them more opportunity. Coach Dutch will believe in me more and more the more I continue to show them that I understand what's happening. I know what's going on. And if they don't, there's no politics here. If they don't play well when their minutes are given, they understand it. It's very, behind the scenes, it's very cut and dry why you played and why you didn't play. It's pretty simple. And it's also why we, in terms of guys that have actually played, and obviously you can take out Keyshawn Johnson, but in the Brian Dutcher years, we've never had a transfer that really left that played for him because they understood why, and I think that's important. I mean, Keyshawn was a whole nother discussion that we get into another day, but this is a team that guys that understands. And it's also, I have every coach in the country. You guys would think that they talk to me about defense, this, and we have such respect across the country from other coaches, other staff, even former guys we played against in the league. But the number one thing they always ask is, how in the heck do you guys play so many guys?
Yeah,
it's a simple answer. It's just they know why they are playing or not playing as many minutes. It's just a lot of the answers are not. They're very just cut and dry. Offensively, if you take care of the ball and you take your shot, the same shots you're supposed to take, whether you make or miss, you're going to play. Defensively, if you follow your assignment, if you rebound, you communicate, you do your job on defense, you're going to play. And when you don't, you don't. It's just pretty simple. And so it's as simple as it sounds. It's, I think we can complicate it at times, but we've done a really good job over the past few years of being able to play, 8, 9, at times last year, 10 guys, which is really hard to do.
We've switching over to the offensive side of the team. Very similar questions. I mean, how could this offense look different than last season's offense?
Well, there'll be much better flow to me. The flow of the offense, how comfortable guys are in the offense, even some of the tweaks we made as a coaching staff within the offense, I think will be just much better from the get-go. I think the ball will be moving side to side. I think we'll be harder to guard. I think we'll play faster in the half court, if that makes any sense. The pace of getting to screens, getting out of screens, sprinting to the rim, moving the ball side to side. I think that will all, I think there'll be more cutting, which is always fun and, really hard to guard. So I think we're all growing. We're continuing to grow. None of us have all the answers. We never think we do, but I think offensively, I think we're going to just continue to grow and get better. I really do.
Coach, you mentioned the flow and the pace is what you expect to be improved on from last year's offense. What do you think will be similar to last year's offense?
I think what will be similar is a lot of the kind of the same, really trying to put pressure on the rim, whether that's with an occasional duck in. We won't be ducking in every single possession like we were last year. Try to open up the lane a little bit more for Trammell and Butler to get downhill in our other wings. But again, we play. It's crazy to say because we have the guard for so darn long, the way how hard we play defensively. But offensively, Dutch wants them to play fast. I mean, whoever gets a rebound is allowed to push it. Every player that plays here knows that, and just get into the offense quicker. It's funny, a lot of times guys just get so tired on defense that they take a break right when we get the ball, so the break's not as good throughout the year. I don't think that will be an issue this year. I think we have guys that are comfortable playing fast, which is always another thing. So I think, I just think the pace and, just the ability to get the ball quicker up the floor with again, some of the same principles from last year. Like I said, putting pressure on the rim, making sure guys you get Micah Parrish to step in three, that thing is down. Reese Waters, another guy like that. Elijah Saunders can shoot the ball. J. Powell can shoot the ball. So we have more shooting along the perimeter than we had last year. So a little different would be, not having a guy always in the paint. Rope and Keyshaw were such great offensive rebounders, putting pressure on the rim in their own way. But this year will be a little bit more spread for the guards to get downhill.
Now, focusing on one player here, on Lamont Butler, his infamous shot last season to beat FAU. How do you think that has affected him and how it will catapult him on the offensive end for this season?
I think it's, given him confidence. I think it's given him some maturity on and off the floor that probably he wouldn't have had to deal with. And so now he's a little bit more grown. He's always been a really, really, well put together young man. I mean, from in the classroom, in the community, amazing to coach. But I just think he just really understands the importance of little, possession by possession. Now I think he understands leading a team. Him and Trammell being the two heads of the snake is really hard to deal with, but to do it in their own way and lead by example as much as by your voice. And so I think just Lamont's just grown up. I've seen it so many times. I've been so fortunate enough to be here for so long, and he's just another one of those special guys that just over time they just grow up, and they just become young men, and he's turned into being an absolutely great leader, and he's doing a great job of it. He's the one that breaks the huddles now, and you couldn't even hear him break a huddle 2 years ago. So he's now the one with the voice that can break the huddle and keep our guys connected, understand when it gets stressful. And there's times, even today at practice, we had a moment where the coaches, myself included, were losing on him. But for him to bring him in, let him bring the guys together and tell them to all take a deep breath. And he's been there before. Let's all lock back in and let's get this right. I think that's important. And that's where we've seen the most growth with Lamont. It's not X and O's. It's more just, leadership, calmness about him that I think he's learned from, that moment last year to where we're at now.
Coach, I was at the Jam Center yesterday for the basketball media day. Got to talk to Lamont and several other players, and Lamont talked about how he was looking to be more vocal this year, but that was something that was not necessarily, in his nature to be vocal. A lot of the other players talked about, needing to be player-driven led instead of coach-led, and how that's what they need to be successful. Why can you talk about, that player-led team and why that's necessary for success?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, Coach Dutcher told us this a long time ago, and I kind of had the same question the first time I heard it. But having two types of teams, there's coach-driven and there's player-driven. And the coach-driven teams, they practice well, they practice hard, but every day seems to be a grind. Every film session, there seems to be guys rolling their eyes. In the games, they're doing it to please the coach. Where player-driven teams, the guys are the ones that buy in. The guys are the ones that motivate each other. The guys are the ones that telling them how important this little detail is. The guys are not, the guys aren't on the floor saying, man, the coaches are tripping right now. The guys aren't going into the locker room saying, why is so-and-so playing and I'm not playing? All those little things. I mean, I think it's important. Those are the difference between player-driven and coach-driven. And the player-driven teams have always had more success. They take more responsibility with every single possession that they're out there. They take more responsibility about how they take care of their bodies. They also take a lot more responsibility in how they watch film and how much film do they watch. Is it just with the coaches, or are they going to watch film on their own? And I think that's been a staple of, to be honest with you, Coach Dutcher's teams the last 4 or 5 years have just been that way. They've just been groups that have really cared about each other, held each other accountable. Thank goodness for that Jam Center. That thing has been just so good to us. And just in growing, camaraderie, guys getting in the gym. I'll never forget a game. We won by like 20-something points on the road, but Malachi Flynn and Jordan Stackle just got awful. And the first place they wanted to go was the Jam Center, like 1 a.m. After we took a plane ride home. And I had to walk in and be like, guys, go to bed. It's over. Come back tomorrow and get your shots up. But that's just who it is. And I think that's, you have younger guys like Lamont Butler seeing those moments, and then he's doing it. And now, the guys like BJ Davis and the new guys on the team are seeing it. And it's special. It's different. And we got to try to keep it going by recruiting the right guys.
You spoke about earlier about wanting to play faster, playing with pace, cutting faster, screening faster, mostly in the half court. Could this team also be a better team running in transition compared to years past, with maybe more ball handlers, more wings on the court?
Yeah, I think just guys that are naturally more comfortable doing it, to be honest with you. Guys that are more natural, pushing it fast, making plays, playing downhill. One of the things about Miles Bird when we recruited him was he was, his passing at his size was the best thing he did. And it's not necessarily meaning that he's going to be the point guard, right? It's more about he's going to push it in transition, hit the paint, and he will find a guy. He'll come off, play off a high ball screen. He'll be able to call what we call the across the street pass, which is really hard to make when you're a smaller guard, which is all the way across from the far elbow to the opposite corner, which is nearly impossible to defend in college basketball because you're either going to give up the dunk or you're going to give up a wide open three. And if you can make that pass, everyone's going to take away the dunk and give you the three. And Miles has that ability. Micah Parrish has that ability. He made some last year. And so again, it's we have guys that are comfortable. Reese Waters is comfortable bringing the ball up, playing. It's funny, Jay Powell and Elijah Saunders, 2 other guys, and Jaden Ledee. I mean, there's a lot of plays last year. That guy took it from one end of the floor to the other. So yeah, I'm hoping in transition we can do better. We'll be honest to tell you, the principles haven't much changed. It's more about how comfortable the guys are playing fast. The Coach Dutcher wants to play fast. It obviously is to our advantage to get teams to speed up, because we can make them take a really hard shot, 10, 15 seconds into a possession, where we hopefully get a little bit of an easier shot against the, kind of the teams that we play, at least in the past, where, the first 10, 15 seconds of possession is to be really, really hard to get a good shot on San Diego State, where we take a lot of pride in. And hopefully this year we can get a better shot than them in that early shot clock, and then we'll just continue to make more possessions, which everyone considers playing fast.
Last year, Coach, we had Jordan on a podcast and asked him for his favorite moment, and he shared the same story that you just shared about going and shooting late with Malachi and all of that kind of stuff. It's pretty neat. 2 more questions for you, Coach. We really appreciate it. It's been great. You mentioned the newcomers. Could you just go into detail a little bit more with what the newcomers you think can add on the offensive side of the court?
Well, the one thing, we'll just help me if I miss a guy though here. I don't got a roster in front of me. But we'll go with the transfers to start. Reese Waters, obviously a guy you can, rely on to make really good plays with the ball in his hands, whether it's scoring or just finding a guy he's done at this high level. He's had success at this high level. Two of his better games in the NCAA tournament over at his last school. Jay Powell, he provides a completely different type of player, but can play the 3 and the 4. He's a really, really good cutter. When guys are driving, he just finds his way to wiggle in. He times up his cuts really well. He can stretch it to the 3, kind of gives you a unique kind of balance because he's a good passer, but at the same time, he's really good off a pick and pop. So he truly is a 3-4, which we were excited to kind of find out when we got him. For the most part of his college career, he's played the 4. Who else we got here? We got BJ Davis, who's a freshman point guard who honestly, that's, at our level, if you got to imagine, he's an 18-year-old. He's going up against Darion Trammell every day and Lamont Butler. I mean, that's about as good as it gets, about as good a competition you're going to see for any true freshman that's out there. And he's just, this word, some of your listeners will get it, some of you guys won't, but, he's just a hooper. He's a kid who can hoop. And he does it unconventionally at times, but he loves the game. He plays really hard. He's going to be a really good player for us just because his demeanor. He really wants to be good. So he'll be a guy that can help. And then obviously Miles Heide, who's our inside guy who will play a ton of minutes as a freshman. It'll be a learning curve for him, but he'll be out there. He'll be a guy that I think our fans will really, really love and care about. He's going to dive on every loose ball. He's going to play as hard as he can on every possession. He's got way more athleticism than it might seem. He's just the best to coach. He's like a dream come true for a coach because all he wants to do is just get better, get better, get better. He asks great questions, comes from a basketball family. Mom played college basketball. Dad played college basketball. Sister's playing college basketball right now at Oregon State. They all just get it. He comes from a really good family, as long as BJ does too. And it's just, so the coachability of the really young kids is awesome. And then Jay Powell and Reese Waters, I mean, we brought them here because we need them. I always say, people always ask for a good transfer. We don't bring transfer in to sit. That's the one thing. If you bring a transfer in, you better expect to need them and want them and expect them to play. And I think those are two guys that will. They'll be out there and they're going to help us win a lot of games.
You said to remind you if you missed anybody. How about Magoon? What have you seen from him?
Well, Magoon is unfortunate. He's been out with an injury since we got him. So okay. We saw very, very beginning, saw little glimpses, but he's had surgery on an ankle, and he might have to have surgery on a different ankle. And just one of those things. A kid he grew so fast. He's legitimately 7 feet. He just grew so fast that he had a lot of kind of underlying issues that are really a lot better to figure out at 17 than to wait, till the year ends. So Magoon's going to take this year to get healthy and get ready.
Last question. We talked with Jaden Ledee before the summer, and he was just talking about how excited he is to, just be able to showcase his entire game. What could you tell us about Jaden and what the season will look like for him?
There'll be some people that say, "Wow, I did not see you at it." There'll be others that say, "Man, I was waiting for that last year." But he will be a go-to guy. He will be a guy that, if he stays out of foul trouble, it'll be hard to keep him out of the game. He can really, really, really score the ball, and he can make great plays when he gets double teamed. So yeah, we're expecting a lot out of Jaden. I mean, Jaden is going to be a guy that we're going to rely on as much as anyone else on the team. And there's no name that you can say to me right now that is going to mean as much or if more right now to us than Jaden Ledee. And I think that's going to be a little bit eye-opening for people that watch San Jose State basketball in the last year, since they saw so many of those guys running in and out of there. But Jaden's worked his butt off. He's put himself in great shape, best shape I've ever seen him in. He lives in the gym, practice really well. He never takes a rep off in practice, and I'm super excited to see Jaden when the lights come on, because there's going to be a lot of people in those stands like, holy cow, he's good. So we're excited. That's what we see every day, and we're excited for others to see it now too.
Coach, thank you as always for the time. We appreciate you chatting with us for a little bit and giving us some insight on the season. We're less than 3 weeks away from November 6th, so I know everybody's excited to get out there, see those banners drop, and see what this year's team can do.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much for having me. Go Aztecs.
All right, guys, that was our interview as promised with assistant coach of SDSU men's basketball, Dave Velasquez. We spoke to him a couple weeks ago, and we used a lot of some of these quotes in our preview articles, but this was the full interview. Obviously touched on a lot of other topics than what was put into the article. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that as we get into the start of the season. Both the men's and the women's start their seasons officially on Monday, November 6th. San Diego State men's will host Cal State Fullerton at Viejas Arena, and the women's play at Portland on the road. So definitely check out both teams when you get a chance. As always, we appreciate you guys. Thank you for liking, sharing, subscribing, following on all your favorite platforms, and we'll talk to you guys next time. You are listening to the SDSU podcast presented by the East Village Times with your hosts Andre Hagverdian and Paul Garrison.